Welcome back to Stepping Stone FC. It is the transfer special. It's the start of season number 2. This smile on my face isn't real. Marino's had his release clause triggered by Manchester United. This is what I get for taking the piss out of them last episode. It's going to be a long summer. Yes, folks, welcome back to episode number 7 of our Newcastle Let's Play here in FM22. Today we have a transfer special. We're going to be getting through, I imagine, the majority of the transfer window today, giving you a little insight into the behind-the-curtains goings-on here at Newcastle. But just as a little heads-up, I suppose, if you didn't watch until the end of last episode, you missed one of the most dramatic reveals ever, as we found out we did actually qualify for the Conference League by finishing 7th. That because Leicester, who won the FA Cup, won the Europa League. I feel like I have to mention that at the top of this video because not everyone gets to the end of videos. People would have been very confused if I just never acknowledged it and we were just in Europe next season. Just before we get into this video, if you do enjoy it, drop a like on it. If we could hit 2,500 likes for this transfer special, that would be immense. These are always a massive amount of work to produce. I hope you enjoy it. But yes, here at Newcastle, we are going to be getting into the dirty business of transfers today. Never before have transfers sounded so exciting. Mikel Merino is leaving us, though. I don't think I can convince him to stay. He's unhappy at the club because he wants to go. We knew when we signed him that he had a minimum release clause of 47 million. I signed him for 38 million, so it's technically profit. I struggle to see how I'm going to find a better wide centre-back on the left-hand side than this guy. And with respect to MB, who, don't get me wrong, fantastic prospect for the future, he's not going to be as good as Merino. Let's be real here. So as we were going into this transfer window, I was trying to plan out, areas of attack. And there's a few glaringly obvious positions I think we need to address. Left back, Jamal Lewis hasn't been good enough. At centre-back, I hope that Tarkowski was going to be a solution of sorts, I suppose. I felt like he was a big upgrade on Lascelles, but to be honest, having seen him now for half a season, I don't think Tarkowski's the man. He's going to be 30 going into next season. Just didn't really wow me. Didn't excite me. So we're looking at potentially a new ball-playing centre-back in the heart of the defence. Besides that, I'm relatively happy with things. Of course, £118 million sounds like a load of money to spend. In modern footballing terms, when we're trying to move towards a Champions League kind of spot, that's maybe only 2 or 3 top-quality first-team players. Of course, we talked about Merino. He has a release clause. Zakaria also has a release clause in his contract of £43 million. I have, however, offered him a new contract at the moment, which he has agreed, so hopefully he's going to be signing that in the coming days. The other player who has a release clause, and I feel like I never acknowledged this, Musiala's release clause is £95 million. We signed him for 60, so it'd be really good profit. But I'd be lying if I was to say the fact that Chelsea and Arsenal are interested in him isn't just scaring me a little bit. So right now we are at the very early days of the transfer window. It literally opened a day ago. And to be honest, there's not that many players transfer listed just yet. I feel like, at least in FM22, the 1st of July is when you can really start to make some transfer moves. I feel like SI have tried to make it slightly less incentivized to get your business done as early as you could last year in Football Manager. There is, however, one man who I am quite interested in Basuma. The issue is that £40 million is a lot of our budget, and I probably don't need a centre defensive mid, but I'm actually looking at him thinking, could he be a replacement to Mbabu? Not that Mbabu needs a replacement, but could he be a plan B at right back? Could Mbabu go to wide centre-back on the right, and then maybe Mukiele moves out onto the left-hand side of wide centre-backs? That seems like a terrible idea the more I think about it. Mukiele, 2 caps for France. He's doing bloody well at the moment. Mbabu, Mukiele, no release clauses. Stepping Stone FC, we fought ahead on those 2. So that's 2 fewer players I have to worry about losing this year. And right on cue, Zakaria, new 5-year deal, no release clause. Life feels a little bit better suddenly. Now, alongside, of course, Matias Orezo, who we've already agreed to sign, and we talked about that last episode, we have got a fairly familiar face, if you're a Football Manager fan, who's potentially going to be joining us, in Thiago Almada. 2 goals in 2 appearances for the Argentine national team. He's had a very good season at Valles, and to be honest, for £7 million, he just kind of feels like a little bit of a no-brainer. So first signing of the transfer window, Thiago Almada, £7 million. We've been trying to get this one done a little bit earlier, just because there was some interest in him from some other Premier League clubs. A B-, first transfer of the year. Advance forward? I mean, talk me out of it. You might be sat there thinking he's not a striker. Look, he could be a very good creative striker. I think, kind of interested to see how he now maybe gets on if we do train him there. I get the impression we're not going to be finishing 2 points behind Man City next season. They've just signed Erling Haaland. How much for, you might wonder? £136 million. It's just not fair. It's just not. I mean, we might have the money one day to sign a player like him. Not today, we don't. You know, on the one hand, it's £50 million for Marino. We did sign him for 38.5 million and then the agent fees on top of that. And he does get 10% of that fee back. So the reality is we've made absolutely no money off him. And I've basically had him for a season. I mean, it was a great year. We had a good time together. He's now natural at centre-back. He's the world's best wide centre-back on the left. But he does leave me with a massive hole to fill in this side that I didn't really want to have to fill this summer. So, of course, logically, the thing to do here now is go and look and find out what centre-backs exist who have a left foot. There's two obvious candidates, I think, for the wide centre-back position, just based on this very, very quick search that we've done. The first would be Malang Sarr, left-footed, good little player, 23 years old, so he's not really a prospect anymore is the only downside, and his overall ability isn't really that great. That said, it's not the most crazy of fees, up to £20 million looking like, realistically. The other man is Gvardiol. Now, Gvardiol I used last year in Football Manager. If you watched our save with Racing Santander, you'll know we were quite a big fan of him, but he wants they want 87 to 105 million pounds for him, and as great as I think he is, I'm not sure I can justify spending that much on a centre-back. You know what? We'll go in lower and see what they say. I will give you £50 million and then 15 million in 5 million chunks. I mean, they've not told me to completely do one, so that's good. What about 75 million? No, you see, I just feel like, I mean, maybe 85 million is fine. But I feel like they're not going to accept this. 40% of any profit. Are we realistically going to sell him on for any profit if we sign him for 85? They've locked in 17 million after 50 games. Do I really want to spend 102 million pounds structured like that? Still really early on in the summer. I'm not going to go in for him this early on in the summer at that price. What I will do, just to kind of plant a seed, is I will submit a non-negotiable offer of 50 million. Just to test the water, see if he gets a little bit unhappy about it, maybe tries to force a move. I mean, let's be real here. Marino was pretty perfectly fitting to our system. I'm really, really gutted we've lost him. It's just very unfortunate, but I had a sneaking suspicion this day would come and could come. Just didn't expect it to happen on the 19th of June. I was just having a bit more of a fiddle with the player filters, lowering the number that need to match. Lisandro Martinez has popped up. Now, Lisandro Martinez is left-footed. He's very good with the ball at his feet. I have no idea how good his crossing is, but the very, very early kind of look of him here looks quite promising, to the point where I'm probably not going to make a bid just yet, but in terms of scouting priorities, prioritise this assignment, make him your number one. You can see here a couple of the other players that I've just asked the scouts to manually look at. A couple of left-backs in here. Rico Henry is transfer listed at Brentford, but I don't really feel like he's a significant enough upgrade. Elsewhere, we're looking at players like Kornienko, who could be a really useful left-back. He is very, very good going forward, a more attacking player, certainly. And there is also Matvienko, who is potentially a left centre-back option, can play left-back, has been out of a long-term injury. There is as well, I thought there was, another Ukrainian left-back that I have been looking at. I think we've already scouted him. It's Mykolenko. He looks pretty good as well. So apparently Ukraine are just producing some crazy players, to be honest. I mean, I'm looking at a direct comparison here between Mykolenko and Kornienko. I mean, you can see the scout reports here. Both given B+. Mykolenko loves big matches and is consistent. That kind of leans me more over towards him, to be honest. Also, slightly cheaper. I mean, how much of an upgrade is he on Jamal Lewis? That's what I'm now wondering. I feel like this is going to be a pretty notable difference. Yeah, I mean, you can see here, it's a straight upgrade at 23 years old, and he has only just turned 23. He's got a few years left in him to definitely develop. Arsenal want him. Do I just go in now? I'm just scared of missing out. It's FOMO, fear of missing out. They want a lot more money than our scouts thought they were going to want for him. How about 26 million? I feel like I'd happily go to 30. I feel like it's going to take 30 to get it done. Oh, why would you do this? 31, final offer. Is that too much? I've been looking at left backs. I have been just having a poke around them. He's been on my radar a little while. He did come up in January. I feel like he's a super well-rounded fullback without any kind of obvious weakness. Lots of 12s and above, basically. And if all those 12s and 13s can turn, one attribute higher, he's going to be a very, very good player. Great pace, not bad going forward. Not the craziest defensively. Don't necessarily feel like that is quite as important when we're playing with 3 centre-backs in behind. I do like him a lot. I'm kind of talking myself into this one, I think. Right, we're going to make a move for Michaelenko here. He doesn't want a release clause, which is absolutely fantastic. Also, his wage demands really aren't that unreasonable for someone who's expecting regular first-team football. I love relishing big matches. I love consistency. If you're a long-time watcher, you already know that. Those are the 2 things for me I love. I'm just thinking about it. I mean, could I play him at wide centre-back? We could train him to play centre-back as well. Oh, that's... Maybe I've unintentionally found my wide centre-back solution here. How does he compare with Mukiele? That's now what I'm wondering. The player out on the opposite side. I mean, you can see him, Mukiele, just a little bit better everywhere. I don't think I'm necessarily signing him to play wide centre-back, but in terms of training him to play centre-back, given the fact he's already competent there, it kind of feels like a waste not to train him to play there as a bit of coverage in that part of the pitch. So unsurprisingly, the bid for Gvardiol was rejected. I'm not going to go in again. It's just a bit too much money. I mean, I was concerned about losing Musiala this summer, so maybe this injury is a blessing in disguise, but he is going to be injured for the next 2 months. I really hope that isn't going to impact his physicals. He's probably going to miss the start of the season. I should really remember there are players like Jeff Hendricks still at the club. I feel like there's a couple of other players here who we also need to try and get rid of. I'm looking at players like Shelvey. I just remember Jolinton still here. How did he get on? Not great in Liga. I think he's another man we're going to be trying to get rid of again this year. So another new signing I've made is to bring in a new assistant manager. The staff I have constantly been kind of upgrading whilst we've been here. But Graham Jones was our assistant manager for the last year. He's not so good. As a result, we've got in Rui Pedro Silva, who's previously been assistant at Porto, Wolves, Tottenham, works alongside Nuno in real life, I believe. He's a really good assistant manager, so delighted to get him in. I forgot about this new feature in FM22. The season just wrapped up for the Premier League. We didn't win overachievers. Congratulations, Leeds United. We didn't have any players appear in any of the charts here, but in terms of signings of the season, Calvert-Lewin came in 2nd place and Livakovic came in 4th. So, I mean, 2 out of the top 5 isn't bad. I feel like this is going to be a self-imposed challenge people try and do to get the top 5 signings in the league. But no, nice to have a couple of our players there. That makes me feel better about my judgment in the market. So some really good news. You might remember we picked up a couple of youngsters in January. One of them was Ransford Yeboah here, who's had a tremendous loan spell at Dresden, has developed a lot during his time there. He has just been granted a work permit, so we're now going to recall him from his loan. I'm not sure how much he's going to feature in the first team this coming year, but he is just a really well-rounded striker. Great work rate, great physicals, maybe needs to work on his stamina a tiny bit, but I think he could be a really, really good pressing forward. Farias has returned from his loan as well. Of course, Thiago Almada has now joined us. The squad's getting a little bit on the larger side, but a lot of these younger players coming in, as I said, probably just going to be made available for the under-23s. I want them training with the first team. I feel like they're going to be first team ready in the next couple of years. Of course, one thing we've got to consider is because we are in the Euro 2 this year, that squad depth is going to be really important. One thing I have got to be wary of is, we are bolstering the squad. The squad itself is already way bigger than it was last year. Of course, there are a few players who will be leaving us. But we have got to be careful about homegrown in nation and at club players. Of course, if we just look at things here, we have actually got a decent selection of players who are homegrown at club. Not necessarily of the top quality first team ability that I would like them to be. But at the same time, they are going to be essential. Worth noting, we're not too short on homegrown in nation players at the moment. But as we perhaps have a turnover in players, that is just something we are going to have to consider when it comes to our transfer business. Okay, so hear me out here. I've had a thought. I need to know if I'm losing my mind. Would it be worth selling Callum Wilson? Now, I am aware, yes, he did score 17 goals for us, but I'm just looking at him thinking he's going to be 31 this coming year. He is a player who is so reliant on his physicals, and whilst he has got natural fitness, in the coming years, it is going to start to drop. There is a little bit of interest in him as well, you can see here from Wolves. Valued for between 40 and 48 million pounds. There is a small part of me that just wonders, is it better to sell him now whilst he's hot? this is probably the one chance I'm going to have to sell him on for some money. Would it be mad not to consider that right now? So a couple of scout reports coming back on Lisandro Martinez and also Mykola Matvienko. To be honest, I think they both, on the face of it, could be pretty good additions to the team on the left side of that defence. Martinez can't play left back, but he's a lot more like Marino, I suppose, a super well-rounded player. I'm kind of looking at him now, realising that his only real weakness to his game for a wide centre-back, I think, is going to end up being crossing. So with that in mind, I'm going to make an offer early here. If we get the scout report and there's some glaringly obvious issues, we can just withdraw the deal or cancel the deal. But I feel like in terms of getting the wheels moving on that transfer, it's worth doing. Matvienko, I'm not quite as certain on. And this one, I'm a lot more likely, I suppose, to cancel. Seems like Shakhtar are wanting a little bit more money for him. But we're going to scout both players a little bit more just to get a better idea. Lisandro Martinez, I think, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm sat thinking, yeah, you are the Marino replacement at left wide centre-back for us. And good news, he is also happy to join us without a release clause. I'm swear this year I'm going to be trying to avoid release clauses at all costs, really. I knew it was going to be an issue this year. I don't want to be in this scenario next summer looking to replace, the same players again. Okay, so the first really big transfer done. You probably never thought you were going to see the day. We have a left back. We have a bloody left back. Vitaly Mykolenko, welcome to the club. And I look at him, he's a really good player. Hopefully our left back, I'd like to think for the foreseeable future. You know what? Just as I'm starting to replace players and get quite happy with my team, this is what I wanted to see. Calvert-Lewin is wanted by Juventus, aka Zebra. I've set an asking price of £150 million. The ball is in their court. I'm not selling him. And you'll be pleased to know there's no release clause. So, yeah, you better make it a good offer if you want him. So, Lisandro Martinez, I can confirm the signing of. I actually don't know exactly how good he is yet, but this could be silly. I'm going to hit accept. I'm going to sign him. I think he's pretty good. As a wide centre-back on attack, just ticks a lot of boxes. Doesn't necessarily have the craziest of physicals. He's not got blistering pace, kind of like Mukiele. But in terms of as a player in our team, he's going to be great. And to be honest, even if he just ends up playing as the centre of the three centre-backs, he'd still be a really, really good fit there longer term. So I'm now looking at the squad thinking, one centre-back, I'll be happy with my business. I would like to try and get in a few more English players with what remains of the window. It is now the 1st of July, so there should be some new players getting transfer listed, some new players being released like this. Look, Jesse Lingard on a free. I shouldn't, but I kind of want to. So one thing I really recommend you doing when you're looking for players in Football Manager is, as well as looking for players who are transfer listed, look for players with contracts expiring in the next year. Now it's the 1st of July. Players whose contracts are expiring at the end of this coming season are now going to show up when you use this filter. You can usually use this to find some pretty good players. And because they're in the last year of their deal, especially if it looks unlikely they're going to look to extend their contract, you can get them for some pretty good prices. In previous FMs, that price, of course, would be maybe slightly less than their value. This year, with how Football Manager and values work, you've still got to ask the agents and stuff. But it's a pretty efficient way of just kind of filtering out players and occasionally finding yourself a really, really good bargain. I mean, just looking at Reece Nelson here, available for between 15 and 18 million pounds. Now, probably not the kind of player we need immediately, but at 22 years old, he could be a pretty good addition for most Premier League clubs at that kind of price with some potential. Also noticed Smaldini is here. He is 32. I don't think he's necessarily what we need, although with model citizen personality, I mean, from a tutoring and mentoring perspective, he could be pretty useful. There's also Ross Barkley here, who's available for between 7.4 and 11 million. Also, Jack Cork has caught my eye. I feel like Jack Cork's always just quite a reliable player in Football Manager. What I would say is he is now 33. So maybe an FM17, if you're still playing that, he'd be good. He's a bit old now, isn't he? So one player who I noticed might be available here is Amari Forson. He is 17 years old, playing for United. His agent reckons he's going to be available for less than £2 million. You can see here, 17 years old, loads of potential, questionable current ability. I'll send an inquiry, but I fancy a punt. So I was thinking again about that possibility of selling Callum Wilson, and I was sat thinking of strikers that I know of this year that are quite good. They're a similar mould of player. And I thought of Karim Adeyemi. We gave him a scout report. The scouts like him. I like him a lot. He's got a release clause of £14.5 million. He is so quick. He is very Callum Wilson-like, dare I say. Could be a little prodigy, I suppose, to work under Callum Wilson. We're going to try and sign him. As I said, the release clause is cheap. The one issue is he wants the club to be treated as a stepping stone. Do I really want a repeat of this again? Do I really want this heartbreak again? I'm not sure if I could handle it. I mean, it's 85 million, so it's kind of such a large amount of money that if we get it, fantastic. In an ideal scenario, we would negotiate a lower initial contract here so that it becomes a little easier to offer him a fat paycheck in a couple of years to maybe try and get rid of that release clause and make it disappear. But let's see if we can get him to sign for us. He wants 130 grand. But he's very good. He is very, very good. How about 120? That's a lot of money, isn't it? Yeah, send the offer. It is a lot of money. He's tremendous. He's so talented. He's so quick. He is like the Callum Wilson regen, if regens were how they used to be like 20 years ago, where you just kind of got an identical player reappear. I mean, you can see it there. If I sell Callum Wilson, I'm not going to get 60 million. I've made my peace with that. But if I'm going to sell Callum Wilson for 40 million pounds, Adeyemi for 15 million just kind of makes a load of sense. That does come with the downside of, I have just talked for a little while about how I want to get more English players in, and now I'm potentially going to be selling on Callum Wilson to Wolves if they make an acceptable offer, which at the moment they don't seem so keen on. I mean, how much would you sell Callum Wilson for? 33 million. He's 30 years old. He relies on his pace. That is going to go kind of soon. He's already talking about maybe wanting to move to a bigger club, which apparently Wolves are. Not sure I agree with that. And Adeyemi could come in just to be the replacement. And it's not like we're short on strikers like last year. Of course, we've got Calvert-Lewin. We've got Rashford Yeboah, or Ransford Yeboah, I should say. I wish we had Rashford. That would be good, wouldn't it? We have Ransford Yeboah, Gabriel Barbosa, Farias can slot in there. I mean, if we had Adeyemi as well, that's a scary set of young attacking strikers. I have just realised Adeyemi wants to become the highest earning young player at the club. In fact, not even young player, just the highest earner at the club. And yet somehow, for some reason, in the back of my head, I'm just sat thinking, he's probably worth it. So you might remember we made a bid for Amari Forson. United told me he's not available at any price, so I bid 1.6 million and they accepted it. So, yeah, we're going to sign him. It turns out any price is 1.6 million, if you were wondering, when it comes to contract negotiations. I've come to this realisation. We've got a load of money. I don't really need to watch the budget, so I'm going to try and sign Tomori for £60 million. I think Tomori, actually, as the centre defensive mid in our system, playing as kind of that quicker covering defender, could be absolutely mad. So, yeah, we're trying to sign him from Milan. Originally, I bid 44 million. They turned that down. We've had a bit of a renegotiation. I'm going to be paying them £60 million, with 20 million of that over 3 years, so 40 million of it this year. I'm going to accept those demands. Elsewhere, Adeyemi has got a work permit, or at least we're waiting on the work permit. He's got the meeting for it. Unfortunately, Callum Wilson has turned down Wolves, so I don't even know if I need Adeyemi anymore, because I don't think anyone else wants Wilson. Yeah, a little bit awkward now, because I've kind of got my head around the idea I like Adeyemi. Also, I've just realised Zebra have made a bid for Calvert-Lewin. How much? I mean, his client isn't interested in talking to Zebra. I wouldn't talk to Zebras either. Look, they've bid £62 million. If all the clauses activate, I signed him for 65 million. Why are we here? So let's get him in. He wants the Stepping Stone FC. Oh, I hate it, but I think I've got to just grit my teeth and say 72 million would be quite good if we got it for him. Obviously, I believe if we qualify for the Champions League, which would be quite nice, that might be the aim for this coming year, that clause no longer matters. And he's agreed to 95,000. We can negotiate that up. You'll also notice here, I was looking at signing Tammy Abraham as a plan B if I decided to let Wilson go. He wants a stepping stone. I can't afford this. As much as I have a load of... I can't afford your Tammy. Jog on. Amari Forson, the guy who apparently United wouldn't sell for any price. They've sold him to us. We've signed him up. Look, he has some potential. He's 17 years old. He's young. He's English. If he develops, great. If he doesn't, I'd like to think we can make a return on our investment still. Adeyemi's been given a work permit, and I don't really need him, but I feel like I should just be signing him. From a squad building perspective, it's probably not the smartest transfer, but we've got Callum Wilson, we've got Calvert-Lewin, we've got Barbosa, and we've got Ransford, and then really those are the 4 strikers this year. It's £15 million. He's really, really good. The only downside really is the wages and the playing expectations, and yet I think I have to do it. I've done it. This will either be the greatest decision I've ever made, or it's going to be a squad building nightmare for the next 12 months. I look forward to finding out which of those it's going to be. That's a lot of money a week, isn't it? Another big transfer. Just one continue later. Tomori is going to join us. Rejected a new contract offer from Milan to join us. So that makes me think he wants to buy into this Newcastle project. And with him in the squad, I don't want to speak too prematurely here because there is still money to spend and players could still get sold. We kind of have a squad now, dare I say. We've signed a new left-back. We've got in Mykolenko for £31 million. Lisandro Martinez has joined us for £26 million. Tomori in at the back, I absolutely adore. I think he's nuts how good he is in Football Manager this year. £60 million, let's be honest, that's a lot of money, but I think it's worth it. And then you look at the team further forward, obviously no real changes elsewhere, just those 3 new players coming in, but the bench for this coming year just looks so much better. We've got players like Adeyemi, Barbosa, Almada, St. Maximan. That is some crazy firepower going forward in terms of game-changing subs. Tarkowski's still on the bench, although we've still got Lascelles as well. Manquillo, maybe the one player on the pitch who could maybe do with an improvement. I wouldn't mind trying to get in someone who can play left back and right back as a super sub. And of course, we've also got Tolisso on the bench. I think this squad now is very much feeling like our own team after 2 really good summers of transfer business. But when I look at the team, when I look at what we've done, I feel like the bulk of the transfer business has concluded here. And when we look at it, we've spent some big money, but I think notable improvements in some really key areas to get those improvements in. As for the outs, no one really sold yet. Obviously, other than Marino, who, for whatever reason, because Football Manager's weird, gets shown on the previous season. I mean, I feel like we've reinvested well. I think. I mean, you let me know. Give me a grade. Treat me like a scout report. Give me a grade from A to F. What would you make of this window? Anyway, folks, that wraps up today's episode from me. I hope you enjoyed this. Transfer specials, they are a bit weird to sit down and record. I've been sat here for 2 hours playing the game. I have no idea how long this video is. Good luck editing Jack. If you've enjoyed the video, drop a like on it. That is the fuel that editing Jack needs to get this content out for you. If you'd like to see more transfer specials, let me know down below. And until next time, until the start of season number 2, it is me, Jack, and I'll talk to you guys in a bit. I'm out.